Welcome to another episode of the Dibbly Dobblers Cricket Podcast. As always, I am your main host, Callum. And as always, I am joined by the ugly one of the pairing, the director, the producer, the dinner lady, the shoe shiner. How's it going?
You've got harsh this evening, I have to say. But yeah, I'm alright. How are you?
That's just because you mocked me before we came on air, so that's the only reason. Yeah, no, I'm good.
What did I say?
You basically questioned my hosting skills. Told me that it's going from one screen to another. Just because I usually muck up every single time. There's no need to be so personal about it.
90% of the time you muck up every time.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Andrew's house is really cold, so I've got a big hoodie and a hat on. Andrew, pay your heating bills, honestly.
Have you seen the price of everything?
We've actually got a fire going on under this table, just burning the floor.
Yeah, burning the house down is cheaper than paying your energy bills.
That's right. I mean, your insurance claim is totally out the window. But there you go.
I wasn't even banking on that. It's still cheaper.
Anyway, tonight's episode, Andrew, what are we going to be talking about, mate?
Scottish cricket, and lots of it in various different ways.
And we do claim to be a Scottish cricket podcast, so it's good that we talk about Scotland.
Yeah,
I've even got
noticed that. Yeah.
It's because I need a haircut. So,
Yeah.
it's not because it's actually cold. Just need a haircut.
It's actually quite warm, and I'm now regretting that I've got a hoodie on because that radiator is on. It's quite warm.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
My house is always way too warm, so I'm used to these kind of tropical heats.
Yeah,
Temperatures. I don't know.
something like that.
You came out with some weird thing earlier. So.
Anyway, yes.
Anyway,
So, first up, an announcement from Cricket Scotland today. Interim women's head coach has been appointed, and Peter Ross has been appointed as the interim head coach.
until the end of, till the ICC women's qualifier, is it? Is it qualifier? End of September, they roughly think it'll be anyway.
Yeah.
The next tournament, that's terrible. Good job we don't pretend to be serious journalists because we don't know exactly what that tournament is. Did look
Yeah.
up about 5 minutes ago, but I've forgotten already.
Yeah, it's 10 o'clock at night, so
Yeah.
excuse the time of day.
Record at
A reasonable
times.
hour, yeah.
But in our defence, we did have an interview which will be later on in the episode, and that's part of the reason why. So
Indeed.
it's all your fault, Andrew.
So, yeah, Pete Ross, he was assistant head coach.
Until 2020, I
Yep.
believe. So yeah, he's been in and around the setup. Even younger than us.
Is he?
Yes, he is even younger than you. He is.
Not by much, though.
No. His brother James and I were and you would obviously be. So he's like sort of school year below us, if we want to go back to those times. So yeah, I played cricket with Peter, so know him a little bit. But and actually, it's quite good to see a young coach,
Yeah, definitely.
because a lot of these interim things are actually like experienced guys that they kind of get in to be like, oh, you just hold the fort just now. And plus, being in the job till the end of September pretty much means you'll have done as much work as Mark calls anyway. So that's alright. But yeah, so he's been in around the setup. Thinks pretty good appointment. Peter also does director of cricket at Heriots, plays for Heriots. Does a lot of other coaching. I think he's been over at the Women's Big Bash and things like that in the past.
Yeah, has his own, him and his brother have a coaching sort of consultancy type business as well. So, loads of experience for someone fairly young. Yeah, all the best to him.
Wish I had that much experience. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the best. Well done, Peter. Good
Did
job.
you not mention that you did the initial coaching badges alongside him?
And his brother. But yeah, I mean, some people going from different paths.
Yeah.
So I
Run your own race, all that sort of stuff, yeah?
I host a second-rate cricket podcast. So
Second rate, you're being generous.
we've moved up in the world, Andrew. We're better than when we started. So I'm
Yeah.
going with second-rate. Okay.
So,
But yeah, so good appointment for Cricket Scotland, and more Cricket Scotland, Andrew.
more Cricket Scotland, Scottish Cup.
Scottish Cup. Well, I can't be the Challenge Cup because even though that draw should be out, it's no. So
Yep. So Scottish Cup draw was announced yesterday, and obviously we're going to focus more on the SPCU as we come into the summer.
Yep.
So we've sort of picked out the ties that the 8 SPCU clubs who have entered the Scottish Cup have got.
Are they nice ties? Silk ties?
Oh dear.
Bow ties? Nah. Okay.
Wow.
Jokes to myself.
And that's why we're not as good as second rate. So yeah, I mean, a biggie early in the draw. Arbroath against Forfarshire. That's.
I don't come much bigger than that in Scottish cricket, to be fair.
No, they don't.
I would argue in this region they don't come bigger than that at all. Some Aberdeen clubs might argue against that, but I would say this is the biggest rivalry in the area. So big one for round one.
Yeah. The winner of that tie will play Stonywood Dice in the second round. Stonywood Dice got a bye.
Yep. So all SPCU on that part of the bracket.
Yep. Fruki, they got a bye through the first round, and will play the winner of Aberdeenshire, another SPCU club, against Drumpellier.
Yep. So that could be an SPCU, all SPCU.
Yeah, I mean, a tough tie for Aberdeenshire, but they have got the home advantage, and I mean that's.
Tire them out. Journey up the road.
Well, that is a reasonable length journey to be making, so it might play a factor. Perth Ducat have got a home tie against Langside.
I believe by the Cricket Scotland website you mean Ducot.
Ducot, because they've spelt Ducot with a double T, because clearly nobody proofreads the announcements before they send them out.
They got genius with an exclamation mark for Grange, but they can't even spell Ducat right, so excellent.
Yep, and the winner of that tie goes to play Stirling or Ayr, so a tough tie for the winner of that one.
Well, I mean, the winner will be Langside. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, probably. But if Ducat do manage to pull an upset and get through, then it's another very tough tie.
Don't have me playing for them this year.
Didn't help them last year either, to be fair.
Well, that's fair. I managed to convince the umpire to call the game off, so I'm taking that. So we've got 2 ties, and so I'm taking that. Use my umpiring experience.
And then Grange with their exclamation mark at home to Meagle.
That's a genius.
Genius. Yeah. So yeah, very tough tie for Meagle, heading through to Grange, and then what should be a winnable tie for Falkland against Stumel.
Again, especially home advantage probably will play a part in that. So yeah, and Falkland, you pointed out Falkland Stumel's probably a likely EPL relegation scrap there. So.
Yeah, if we go by the form of Falkland, the newly promoted side, Stumel were lucky to survive the back end of last season.
Yeah. So I mean, at least we've got 2 SPCU teams already into round 2. In this area, and Arbroath Forfs is an all-region tie, so
yeah,
we're gonna have at least 3, and because of that, we're gonna have a guaranteed team in the quarterfinals.
Yep.
So so we'll see how these teams go. I'm trying to think. The Forfs were the last winners in the area, so a couple of years ago. So we'll see how they go, and the winners, the final, is all the way on the 28th of August. That seems a long way from now.
Yeah, but we will keep tabs on that competition as it progresses.
Yeah, even though I'm not in it.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned a little time ago, we have got an interview for this episode.
We do.
So we're going to go to that next. So we are delighted to be joined by Barry McGeachy, who is representing Callander Cricket Club, and is going to have a chat with us about where they are as a club and what is on their horizons. So we will share that interview with you now. Hi Barry, thank you very much for joining us. How are you?
We're good. Thank you for having me on, guys. Look forward to this.
Good.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
So this is sort of the first one in sort of a series of interviews we're going to do where we're focusing on the SPCU region. You obviously are the representative from Callander Cricket Club. So the first thing we kind of like to know about Callander is sort of the state of play at the club at the moment. Obviously, we've all had a tough couple of years. How's that affected the club, and how are you doing at the moment?
The club's actually going strong, although we've got a bit of a change in dynamics. I think everybody's noticing and feeling the effect of the 2 years we've had no coaching of juniors and such. So that conveyor belt's almost stopped. So that's affected us a little bit this year in our first team numbers, although the junior numbers are really strong. So as a club, we're going well. We just have to change a little bit of our focus this year. So sadly, coming out of Division 2 cricket, which has gotten to those of us who are still wanting to play that this year, having come so close to flipping Meagle last year to the Division 2 title. But it's just something we felt we had to do. We had to take that little sidestep just to regroup for our first team players. But we've got a lot of good youngsters coming through. Women and girls section's going strong as well. That's growing in numbers. So yeah, we'll be back stronger than ever. But we thought rather than fight the waves, we'll just take a sidestep, regroup for that first team, and come back even stronger. Plus, obviously, we'll maybe chat about it later on. There's a lot going on in the background when it comes to home ground and everything with Callander. So yeah, there's a lot of exciting things happening in our small little town of I think about 3,000 people.
So you say he's taking a side step. Are you guys playing R&D cricket this year, or are you still Division 2, or what are you guys doing?
We are doing a bit of a mixture. So we've got a bit of a affiliation with West Quarter and Reading Cricket Club. So in order to keep the players within Callander that want to play that competitive cricket playing at a decent level, we've gone into a player pool with them. So the likes of myself and some of the other stronger players in the club, we're going to help them out with their ESCA division and play competitive Saturday cricket there. And then on the Sunday, we're doing R&D, so recreation development games, social games, friendly games, just of different levels, because we've got a strong midweek team. So for our Wednesday night, we play in the West Stirlingshire League T20 competition, which is a really good league. And you could probably field 2 teams midweek. Everybody seems to want to play midweek cricket rather than weekend.
It's really quite unusual for the dynamic to be that way, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really frustrating at times. So what we've done is we've just reduced the amount of weekend cricket and hopefully try and get that enthusiasm for it back. So I think that's just been an outcome of COVID, isn't it? Sort of as soon as everybody got let out, it was, do you want to go and play cricket on the weekend? I think most of us blokes got glared at by our wives and girlfriends going, we've been locked up for 6 months. You're not going to go play cricket. We're going on holiday or we're doing it like that. So, yeah, I think it's just been an effect of that. It's a bit of a struggle for us as well. We've not got a home ground. So where everything was kept online, we lost a little bit of that club spirit. Everybody wanted to play cricket, but because we weren't meeting in person, and then when lockdown finished, well, first lockdown, how many we had? When the first one finished and clubs got back to playing cricket, we couldn't ground share. So whereas we were playing at Stirling County pre-COVID, they got back to training and playing games. Because we weren't members of that club, we weren't allowed to use that facility anymore. So we had no means of training, playing games and things like that. So when other clubs got back, we were a bit long before we could actually play any games. So again, that had a bit of an effect. And we've still got a good, strong core, but I think people just decided, well, there's no games on, we're going to do other things with the family and such. But fingers crossed and touch wood, we're coming out the other end of it now and going into an endemic instead of a pandemic, that we might get that weekend cricket stronger again in numbers. Another conveyor belt as well.
It can be tough when you lose people. I think a lot of clubs find that is once you've lost people to it. I mean, we know it from, we've got our sort of midweek social team, and we've got a couple of guys who play cricket and that's the same. I think they've just become so used to not having weekend cricket. I think they'd maybe like to go back to playing it, but I think there's maybe somebody else controlling controlling the competition who's telling them that they're not. So.
It's not really us oldies either. Us oldies are fine. We're itching for that weekend to get out the house and get away from the kids and everybody else. But it's that younger core group. So we're losing quite a few to university at the moment. So I mean, we've had the Parson twins, and we've got another one's coming through. So Eve, who's been really strong with our women and girls, she's off to uni in Dundee. Callum's away to university. So we're losing a core group of players that make up that first team. And although we've got other youngsters around that age, because they've missed out on almost 2 years of coaching or sporadic coaching, they're not at the stage that maybe the Parsons were when we brought them up into the R&D and then we took them into competitive cricket. They're almost 2 years behind that. It's like, would I throw some of these kids into Division 2 cricket? It's like, well, no, they should be. And we should have had them there by now, but we're having to stick them at the R&D level still, just because they've missed a whole chunk, haven't they? I mean, how many kids have just gone a couple of years without any coaching whatsoever? I mean, we're lucky we've managed to keep indoor stuff going, so we've got those bits. But yeah, we'll get them back. We'll get them back until weekend, and I think the home ground's going to be key for that.
Yeah, that's a more focal point. But I suppose we can maybe touch on that probably at the end, because I would imagine that was the biggest point, the biggest talking point. So I suppose you talked about some younger players and things. You've got some people moving on and things like that. But I suppose if you were to pick of people who are left, whether they're coming to the tail end of juniors or sort of younger adult cricketers, do you think you've got a player to watch at the club?
One who's really come on over the last couple of months, and it's thanks to Richie at Cali Highlanders, who's kept this young lad involved. He's maybe not been quite at the standard where he'd get into that sort of top 11, 12 players and then played regular. But what he's done is he's kept him involved, helped keep his development. And that's a young lad called Ryan Glenn. And over the last couple of months, the penny sort of dropped with him a little bit. You've probably seen him in the indoor stuff that we've done over the winter as well. He's given up rugby now and concentrating on his cricket, and that's a big step for him. So yeah, one to watch, I would say Ryan Glenn. I think he's going to go on a sharp upward curve if he sticks with the commitment that he's got at the moment. Yeah,
that's a good thing, getting them to commit to cricket. Because I remember coming through the age groups, and that was always a big problem. Is you were always kind of guys who are doing football or rugby and things like that, and it seemed to be cricket was always the second sport, and then get them to actually commit and take cricket more seriously seemed to be a really hard thing. So it's a pretty big step. I suppose a follow-on question, I don't know if it really works so well, because it would have been who you predict him to be a top run scorer and wicket taker, but I suppose
we've still got some decent players in the club, so we've still got some trophies to vie for. So I would probably say runs, we're looking at Sedan. You'll know Sedan from the indoor stuff, hits lots of sixes. He hits them over the net. Sid had a good season last year. I reckon he's going to go on to bigger and better things. Sort of his fitness is back up. He's had shoulder injury problems over the last couple of seasons, but he seems to be managing that a lot better. So Sedan run wise, and we've got Kiwi. So it happens to be Ryan's dad, Ian Glenn. He's a Kiwi, funny enough. He's itching to break Kyle Allen's wicket haul for a season. He came close last year. So Kyle Allen's the current record holder. I think he took 29 wickets in a season. Kiwi took 26 last year, so wasn't happy with that. So this year he's itching to go and break Kyle's record. So wickets, I'm tipping him to do it. I reckon he can do it.
That's what, if he's keen for a record as well.
And
I mean, the end of the tail will be like warming up for a second spell. That's like, just get me back on.
Well, Kyle can't commit as much this year either, so he's not going to play as many games. So if he's got a chance to do it, it's going to be this year when Kyle's not playing, because normally Kyle's up there in those 20s and pushing him. So I think he's going to take advantage of man down, I think.
Well, it's good though to hear that, even if it sounds like you made a pretty sensible call, taking a sort of sidestep from Saturday cricket as a club. It's good. But I think it's great that you've got a partnership to actually, to keep people interested, because I think sometimes partnership working
hasn't always been cricket club's greatest strength. I think it would be fair to say in Scotland. So it's good, positive that you guys are able to do that.
Well, I think it's key with clubs coming out. I mean, we're not going to be the only ones that are possibly. I mean, we've got a first team that I could look at the sheet and go, right, there's my 11. But are they all available? And that's the issue we're going to have is, can we regularly, week in, week out, get 11 on the paper rather than spending the whole week chasing? And we've gone at the partnership because West Quarter, they had similar issues towards the back end of last season. So we thought, well, rather than 2 captains or fixture secretaries running around trying to get 11 people onto a pitch, let's take 12 months to regrow those adult sections. We'll come together, and it was Escorts or Strathmore, so we'll support them with that. In exchange, we're getting to use their ground for recreational games and stuff as well, which is good.
Oh, it's good. It's good to hear.
Good to work both ways, I guess. So I suppose that neatly brings us on to the ground situation. It's something we've alluded to a couple of times. Callander have big plans for a home ground. Can you tell us a bit more about those plans?
Yeah, so it's been, if anything, COVID's allowed us to focus on this, but it also highlighted the fact that we need a home ground coming out of COVID and nowhere for people to congregate, to come together. But we've partnered with a football club, which a lot of people have gone, you've done what? And actually, well, why are you going with a football club? But they're in the exact same situation. So they play their games and they've got the training facilities at McLaren Leisure up there, but they introduced their junior section a couple of years back and it's just exploded. So they don't have enough space up there to play the number of games they need to in a week, but also for training wise, the numbers are just too much. So that's sped up their need for a home ground, because they don't have their own home either. So we're the 2 clubs in Canada that don't have a home. So we locked heads together and we're just going, look, there's a mutual thing that we need here. How is it going to work? And, once we spoke, we realized the 2 clubs have very similar aims: youth-driven, community-driven, and really wanting to do more than their actual sport. We always, what's that phrase, more than a cricket club? I hate that phrase because everybody uses it now, but it gets it across, doesn't it? Yeah. So you're trying to do more within the community, do more than bring the benefits that sport brings with it. And we very rapidly found out that the 2 clubs have the exact same ideals. So it just went hand in hand. A couple of plots of land came available within Callander. One turned out not to be feasible at all, even though it was an absolutely massive piece of land. But there'd be a lot of red tape with it, access problems, things like that. So we reverted to a plot of land that Drummond Estate have got. And we're now trying to purchase that land. We've agreed a price with them. We're now trying to get to that. But in order to facilitate it, the 2 clubs have created a new charity for the actual town. So Trossachs and Teeth Community Sport and Social Hub. So as well as providing a home for football and for cricket, it's going to give that community and social aspect to it as well. So the other things that the clubs want to do, it's going to give us that. So yeah, it's driving on. We got charity status just over 2 weeks ago. So that was a big step for us. Our stage 1 application to the land fund has gone in to get some development funding. Everything that comes in. It's only when you start these projects you think it's a great idea. Then you realize that you're one man, you're away in a hotel all week and you've still got to try and find how to do flood risk assessments and surveys and speak to all this. So all those jobs come out, you need this, you need that. And it's like, so it's an absolute huge project that's going on. But we've got some good support. We've got some good trustees on board with the charity as well. So we've got a timeline. We're hoping to have this land this year, and then 12 to 18 months of development. So in line with us taking that sidestep with the first team, 2024 is when we're looking to sort of re-enter that competitive division, having rebuilt, but also have a home ground, which I know wherever we go, even when we come to you guys and such, one day we'll get to come and play a game in Callander. Well, hopefully 2024 is that year. So we're working hard towards it. We've got a lot of support for it from the local residents, local community. And yeah, there's a lot of money to raise. We've got to find a lot of money.
I can imagine.
And we've got to do a lot of paperwork and applications and forms and everything. But we're getting some good pledges in. We're getting some pledges in already in support. not just verbal support, but also financial support. We've got some interested parties throwing a little bit of money behind as well, going, we've pledged this. So it's all positive.
No, it sounds excellent. And the thing is, I know what you said about sort of more than a cricket club, sort of perhaps it's become a bit cliche now, but I think that's a massive thing, though, is that what is actually that it becomes a club and there's a community around the club, because I think, my personal view on cricket in Scotland is I think there are a lot of clubs, but in reality they are teams or a collection of teams or bodies. There's no real community to it, and actually there's some very thriving clubs in Scotland that are based in unlikely places. You know, I suppose somewhere like a Falkland kind of springs to mind that's, you know, kind of similar to yourselves, I'm sure, in kind of population to call upon and things like that. But there's actually a club there, so I think it is maybe with, you know, that an overused term now, but I think that's kind of the way forward, the way to get it successful.
I think you probably, it's actually not a bad way of putting it. There are maybe more teams than there are clubs, and I think that's the ethos that we're trying to get is that club aspect in there. Because, as I say, we're strong. I mean, we're focusing on our juniors and our women and girls this year, which are growing from strength to strength, and that's the lifeblood. You know what I mean? But even just that connection with the football club, the conversations we're having when we sit down, we've got their members going, well, we'll come and do your teas on the Sunday or the Saturday when you're playing. We'll do all that stuff so you don't have to run around, and we'll support you guys on your match days. You know what I mean? We do your water boys, make your lunches, your teas, whatever's going on, so support each other that way. But that in itself is attracting members, because now you've got football players going, you know what, I've got nothing on Sunday, I might actually just come down and take part in one of these recreational games. Yeah, and that's where it starts, isn't it? We all know that's where it starts. They start with the recreational games, we'll have a little bit of fun, and then that competitive streak comes out and goes, right, I'm going to give it a go.
We've got a couple of lads in our team that are a bit like that. They were total non-cricketers, and then they kind of get the bug. And that's the key, getting them involved. And however you can get them involved is no set way of doing it.
Have that central point, and that's what we need, is that central point within Callander, because they all know we exist. We're a very active club within the community. They know that the cricket's there. They see us up at the leisure centre and all that. They see us all over social media, so they know we exist. But existing online and seeing the team in person playing a game of cricket in the middle of the town, completely different, isn't it? And that's the bit that we're missing. It's the same with the football club. They play at McLaren Leisure Centre, not in the centre of town. So again, unless you're physically active and you're going to go to the leisure centre for a gym workout on a Saturday, which I don't think I know many friends that actually do that.
I don't know any day.
Saturdays, not gym days. And so unless you're going up that way, you're not going to go and watch them, are you? You're not going to stop and sort of watch. But the bit of land that we've got is next to the largest residential area in Callander. It's right at the back where the playground is and such. So it's all full of families and young. So they're going to see it out their back window. The kids are going to be in the park seeing cricket happening, seeing football playing. That in itself is, huge for growing the memberships and just getting that bite.
Yeah, you've got the ability for people to come across you by accident, rather than them sort of having to seek you out, I suppose. And that is a huge thing. Increase your visibility and increase the likelihood of someone just seeing you and going, I fancy that.
That sounds like very exciting times, and to be fair, it's 2024. Some people, it probably sounds like, that's ages away, but I mean, I'm somebody that I've done charity work, I work for a housing developer, I know how long these things, these things do not happen overnight.
I might be calling on you very soon.
Get quiet.
You fill out that bit of paper.
But yeah, so these things, and I mean, even just getting a wicket, right, usable, that's not an overnight job either. So it's,
no, and as I say, I mean, we've got that 10-year plan. And again, we've had to sort of rein the football club in a little bit as well, going in 2 years. Rather than in 2 years, you're not going to have all that. So you're not even going to have a clubhouse in 2 years' time. What you'll have is a flat bit of ground that you can play junior cricket on, and is flat enough for us to get an official pitch on, and we're away. And maybe it's a porter cabin and some portaloos or things like that. In 10 years' time, we hope to have everything then put in. So, but yeah, it takes time, and 2 years will just absolutely fly by. I mean, we've got timescales now. Scottish Land Fund was due tomorrow, and we've literally just got it in tonight because, again, they're trying to speed us up because of the time that we've got to purchase the land and that. So yeah, it'll fly by.
So the long-term aim, sort of a full grass square as well as an artificial wicket as well.
Yeah, so the football club have got aspirations of going up their leagues as well. So we're very much looking at when we come back into Division 2 as not just being a Division 2 team. We want to attract stronger players in when we have the ground. We're looking for bringing in amateurs and that as well because we want to go up the divisions. Okay, so we're very much Division 2 targeting Division 1. But also going forward, we want teams to be able to come in players. Women and girls is strong in Callander. We want the ability to attract the women's national team to come and play some games at the ground. It's big enough. The space that we're looking at and the facilities that we're looking at, we're hoping to attract some of this stuff as well. I mean, bring some of that stuff into Callander, make it a bit more visible. And I know Callander Thistle Football Club themselves are wanting to go up the divisions for that. And they need a high standard of pitch. So it's very much high-end facilities and clubhouse that we're looking at. So no. Hopefully,
and is it
up there to rival a Ducat clubhouse when we get it? But we're in a national park, so we've got to make it.
Yeah, rivaling their clubhouse, that's ambitious because I think the Ducat clubhouse is it's one of the best in the country, isn't it?
It is. We're modelling around it.
Yeah.
We're in the national park, so we've got to meld into the background. Permissions on there, so it won't just be a plain brick prefab house that goes up like that. It's right next to the River Teeth as well. So
as you calling Duke it out now.
Let's calling Duke it out now. That's it. We're coming for your clubhouse.
I think we've got Rory Duke's captain coming on to speak to us in a couple of weeks' time. So let's see what he's going to say about that.
Yeah, what he says when we lay down the gauntlet. We'll just beat your clubhouse and your food.
It's not hard to beat Duke's food. I'm lying about that.
Oh dear.
Well, no, it's really positive to hear something like this happening in Scottish cricket. You know, and really wish you guys all the best with that. And I'm sure if there's anything, you know, as the time comes up, you're doing fundraising or whatever, I'm sure, you know, happily give you guys some shout outs. I'm sure people would love to, you know, get behind you guys and rally around.
No, we look forward to it. It's always good news for Scottish cricket to grow the game. That's what we want in the end of the day, isn't it? The more people playing, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you very much for joining us, Barry. And once again, all the best with the club's ventures over the next couple of years.
No, cheers for having me on, guys. It's been a pleasure, and we'll keep you updated, that's for sure. You won't miss us on social media very soon.
And thanks to Barry for joining us there for that interview. Good to have a chat with a club that seems to be going places. And one of the big things about them is their new ground. And I think that ties in quite nicely to Andrew. You had spotted something going on Twitter about a ground in America, I think it was?
Yeah, it was. And actually, I just retweeted again something earlier this evening as we record, as the sort of Major League Cricket published an update on the various grounds that are going to be built or are being built to host their Major League Cricket tournament. And I was looking at these, what are fairly basic grounds, in that there's maybe one or two stands and then grass bankings. Actually, you know, not dissimilar to Mount Maunganui in New Zealand, which is on our TV screens at the moment with the Women's World Cup. And it got me thinking, how good would it be for Cricket Scotland to take the steps to invest in a facility like that? And how much of an impact would a facility like that have on our quest to becoming a test nation?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that I thought would be an excellent idea, is to have an actual national ground. I mean, I'd actually take it a step further than that. I'd almost like to see a sort of a facility kind of thing, but that's maybe a sort of
down the road
aspiration. It needs more land, it's more cost and things like that. But yeah, I think just having a national ground, because I think then when you host matches, it's, you know, you've got that one core place. I know that there's an argument saying the Grange does it
Yeah.
just now. But yeah, I think it would just be good to have a place that is Cricket Scotland's own place, and they've got full control over the pitches, full control over all of the revenue and all that. I don't know exactly how the ins and outs works of that for them using the Grange, but yeah, and I think it's also quite a sort of bold statement for advertising the game, and how, you know, if it's somewhere that people can see,
Yeah.
the stadium kind of stands out. One thing that the Grange does kind of suffer from in its location is it's kind of, you know, tucked off down, you know, a side street a wee
Yep.
bit, and don't necessarily notice it if you don't know it's there, because it's in behind houses on two sides, and then
It's got high walls on either side of it as well.
yeah, it's pretty much the folk walking down the bottom end, sort of through the trees.
Yeah.
About the only people who are going to see anything. So, yeah, I think it would just be quite a bold statement, and it would sort of maybe help in our own country for people to take the sport a bit more seriously as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Because then you've got that sort of identifiable place of, you know, that is our national stadium. It's even simple things like having a couple of small stands there. Obviously, the Grange, when it's hosting bigger games, it's temporary stands come in. The ground around is quite flat as well.
Yeah.
I love a cricket stadium that's got grass banking. I just think it looks absolutely fantastic. So I would love to see just a couple of simple stands that maybe hold, I don't know, 2,000-3,000 between them. Maybe even not as much as that.
I don't even know if you need two. I think a sort of a clubhouse, you know, a sort of pavilion type stand that's a permanent feature, and then even if you grass bank in the rest of it, because you can put the temporary. You see that in some of these things.
Yeah.
Almost temporary stand on top of the banking.
Yeah, I'd like to see one sort of. Yeah, I get the sort of pavilion stand, but I would like to see one permanent spectator stand. To the others, it's like separate as well. But
I'd be talking
yeah.
like a bigger stand that's sort of taking in the pavilion as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I do get what you
yeah,
mean, but that's a personal preference thing, I guess. But yeah, I would just love to see that vision and that boldness come from Cricket Scotland to say, this is what we're going to do. This is the statement that we are making, because it feels like that is what American cricket is doing. And if I'm being honest, if I had to place a bet of who's going to have Test status first, I'm back in America with the way that they're going.
Well, I suppose it's full member status is the sort of the key
Yeah.
thing to it now, and I think actually, while historically it was very much about Test status, I think what you're maybe seeing is that I think the full member status is becoming something slightly different. You know, Afghanistan and Ireland aren't necessarily going to try and play the number of tests that other nations do, or not going to try, but they're maybe not going to play them.
Yeah.
So the fact is now that change of shift, I actually think, especially someone like an America, or I don't know, somewhere else kind of a bit more left field that could burst on the scene, it opens up the doors more for it. I mean, if they've got 4 stadiums, you know, it's not just 4 grounds like Namibia have, it's 4 stadiums.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard not to take that seriously. I just think it's a difficult one. People like going to like other grounds and all this kind of stuff, but I just like the idea of a national stadium. I think it's just a fortress. You kind of build that fortress mentality as well. Like, you're coming to, I don't know, the Thistle Oval or whatever.
Thistle Oval. you flattening the Stirling Shopping Centre.
Ideal location. That's where Cricket Scotland. Because I think Cricket Scotland, to be fair to them, had an idea something similar to this before, I believe, at Stirling.
Yeah.
I think Stirling was kind of viewed as quite a central point. And I suppose there's that, it not being in Edinburgh, which has long been seen as the sort of stronghold of Scottish cricket, maybe appeals to the non-Edinburgh people as well. I'm okay with it being in Edinburgh, but I'd like to see a stadium. I think
Get it on the North Inch. There's a grass bank there already. Just build a stadium. We're sorted.
jobs are good.
Yeah.
Just get a stand up.
Yeah.
Let's extend around it. Just say it's flood defence works or something.
Yeah. I mean, still need more flood defence works because it still floods. So.
Well, there we go. Then we can pair it up as part of it. I mean, Barry, he'll know all about all the forms that we need to fill in, so he'll be all right. He can tell us what we need to fill in. We'll just get it done.
Yep. Yeah. So we're going to get this stadium done. But yeah, no, I genuinely serious. I do think it's something that over the next 5 years or so, Scotland should really be considering, is putting the plans in place to get a national stadium for our cricket team in place.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing as well. It's not just for men's internationals either. This should be playing. It should also be the place that hosts all the finals. It hosts the women's games. It probably hosts
age group as well.
Maybe not all the age group cricket. Especially at some points in the schedule that probably doesn't work. But if you've got, you could almost at certain points in the summer you can almost end up with a game every day across all the Scotland various teams and all that. So you want it to be that prestige, and I think at very least all the finals and the full internationals on both the men's and women's sides are played at a stadium. And I think there's that whole thing of like, you have that stadium that you look up to, sort of think of the Hampden football, and it's Queen's Park kind of spoil a bit, but
well,
the top standard,
not anymore.
No, not anymore, but sort of historically. But the top standard footballer, the only because you weren't likely to play Queen's Park.
Yeah.
The only realistic way you were getting to Hampden was making a semi-final, final, or playing for Scotland.
Yeah.
And I just think as a kid, it gives you that place that you want to go and play. The reality is, if Scotland are playing most of their games at the Grange or Manfield or any of these other grounds that they go to, guys are playing there in the league.
Yeah.
Like, I just think it doesn't have that same special place. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
But do we believe the boldness exists for such a project to happen?
I mean, in fairness, Cricket Scotland have got a lot on their plate at the moment. But I think that they will come out at the other side of that. And I think there almost has to be like a big ticket project on the other side.
But I suppose to go back to the idea I'd sort of slightly tossed out there of a more like a facility, sort of like your ICC Academy. I think Oman, I'm sure they've got like 2 ovals sort of side by side.
Yeah.
Things like that. Because that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, Oman have got a stadium. There's even like on Twitter, I saw Rwanda have got this like amazing like club. It's like these 3, they're almost like chimney kind of. I think they're meant to be like a sort of play on a tribal hut kind of thing.
Right.
And it's even things like that, and it just feels like, where is that in this country? Like, there's just doesn't seem like there's a reliance on Grange providing it.
Yeah. No, it would be great to see it. And as I said, it would be a sort of statement to the rest of the cricketing world of actually, we are a nation that's here to be taken seriously.
Yeah, and it also says to people, I think, you need to come here because we've got a proper facility that you're going to come and play at. We're not going to go and play down at Lord's. I mean, guys want to play at Lord's, but I'd like to see it. So get it done. And if we have to do it, we get the naming rights.
The Dibley Dobblers Cricket Academy. Just producing Dibley Dobblers for years to come.
No, we definitely have to put a roof on it and call it the Dibley Dobbler Dome.
Yes. I'm here for it. Absolutely.
I mean, it'd be so American as well. We're taking this inspiration from Major League Cricket. Just putting like a really high, big white roof on it.
Yeah.
The Dibley Dobbler Dome. That would be brilliant.
And really practical in Scottish conditions.
Exactly. No regulays. Imagine.
Fantastic.
Why do we not do that? I mean, that way.
Money is why we don't do that.
Who needs that? Got all those Russian bank accounts we can raise.
Thank you, Mr. Abramovich.
Cheers, pal.
Anyway, is that us?
I think that's us. But it's good to see lots going on in Scottish cricket.
Yeah.
To talk about. And I think over the coming weeks, this is going to be hopefully starting gearing up for the season. So getting a couple more chats in with clubs. Got at least another one lined up in a couple of weeks. Hopefully get another one in. Or hopefully, touch wood for next week. But if not,
If you get your finger out your backside.
come on now. Don't get too hopeful then. So we'll have no chat next week. But yeah, and hopefully as the season goes on. But yeah, we'll be starting to gear up for the season ahead. And talking about all things that. It's worse than you're casting off.
Casting up.
Casting out, or whatever.
Yeah.
If anyone on Twitter, if you've ever heard the term cast up, can you please let us know? Because Andrew said that earlier when off air we were talking to Barry, and Barry and I were very confused about what that meant. So at DibDobPod.
At DibDobPod, indeed. Or in the comments on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you offer us a favour on there, I will cast it up. So.
If someone offers you a favour.
Yeah. Whoa, you've taken that a different way. Right. On that note, we are done. We'll speak to you next week. Bye bye.